Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we dive into the messy world of corporate filings so you don't have to. Ever wonder what a biotechnology company dreams of at night? Turns out it's not electric sheep but lifelong cures. Today, we're decoding Beam Therapeutics' latest 10K filing and seeing if those dreams are anywhere close to becoming reality. Get ready because it's a long report with big promises and maybe a few hidden anxieties. First off, Beam Therapeutics tells us straight up they are going after lifelong cures for serious diseases. They are not messing around. How? With something called base editing, it is like editing single letters in the DNA code instead of breaking the whole thing. They are trying to build a giant platform to do this and get it out to as many patients as possible. This report covers the year 2024 and gives us a snapshot of where they stand financially and strategically and what might go wrong. It's basically a risk assessment buffet mixed with a sales pitch. The company's strategy rests on a few key pillars. They're prioritizing their lead programs focused on blood disorders like sickle cell disease and other genetic diseases. They're trying to create not just treatments but actual cures. Ambitious. Let's talk about their lead product, Beam 101, for treating sickle cell disease. They are injecting stem cells back into the patient after they are edited. They've got some positive initial data from their clinical trials, something known as the Beacon trial. We are talking about levels of this fetal hemoglobin going up over 60% in patients, and a drop in the bad sickle cell hemoglobin, that's HbS, to under 40%. One patient actually died after treatment, which is a big red flag. Next up is what Beam is calling escape with non-genotoxic approach, which is a fancy way of saying they are trying to get around using harsh chemicals in the bone marrow transplants. They are working on using antibodies to prepare the body for edited cells. It is like a guided missile instead of a bomb. Beam 103, the antibody, is going into human trials by the end of 2025. Beyond blood disorders, they are also tackling genetic diseases that affect the liver. Beam 302 is aimed at alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, a disease that can mess up your lungs and liver. They have a trial going on in the UK and are expecting some data in the first half of 2025. Finally, they also have Beam 301, which is chasing glycogen storage disease, a rare condition that affects blood sugar levels. That one is starting clinical trials early 2025. Beam is not just about base editing. They have also licensed other gene editing technologies like prime editing and RNA base editing. They are assembling a toolbox just in case one method does not work out. To help fund this grand plan, Beam has partnered up with some big names like Pfizer and Apellis. The Pfizer deal brings in cash and expertise for liver, muscle, and brain diseases, while Apellis is focused on complement system disorders. There was also a mega deal with Eli Lilly that brought in a cool $200 million upfront. Of course, Beam is not the only player in this game. They face stiff competition. There are other companies like Intellia and LifeEdit also working on similar technologies. Plus, established players like Vertex and CRISPR Therapeutics are also in the gene editing space, specifically in blood disorders. Protecting all of this, and of course, very important to Wall Street, is the intellectual property. Beam has a war chest of patents, 8 in the US and 21 overseas. They are covering everything from the base editors themselves to the guide RNAs that target specific genes. They also rely on trade secrets, which are harder to protect than patents. But here's the catch: Beam does not own all of this technology outright. They license a lot of it from universities and other companies, and that creates a whole new set of risks. Their licenses are subject to milestones and royalties, and if they screw up or don't move fast enough, they could lose those rights. In the gene editing world, there are often big legal battles being fought around who actually invented certain things. These court battles and interferences create uncertainty and risk for Beam. Like any good company, Beam is also worried about cybersecurity. They recognize the growing number of cyber threats and are constantly working to protect their systems and data. Scroll held by non-affiliates of the registrant was $1.91/scroll. Okay, let's check the money. Beam lost almost $377 million in 2024, compared to about $133 million in 2023. Ouch, that's a big jump and highlights the high-risk, high-reward nature of biotech. They did have $850.7 million in cash at the end of the year, which they think is enough to keep them going for at least another 12 months. It is worth noting that revenue dropped significantly, from about $378 million to only $63.5 million, mostly from what they made in the deal with Lilly last year. Their market cap is still decent, about $1.91 billion, so investors are still betting on their future. They also had almost 84 million shares outstanding. They expect expenses to go up as they continue to push their product candidates through trials and build their manufacturing plant. They are going to need more cash at some point, which could mean diluting the existing shareholders or taking on debt. And here is a bit of a liability. Beam may also owe Harvard and the Broad Institute up to $90 million each, depending on how well their stock performs, and these liabilities are revalued every year, which will increase the uncertainty and profitability. Another big one, because their work is so novel, they face an increased risk that the FDA or other agencies may not see their clinical trial results as clinically meaningful. In other words, the regulators might not buy what they are selling, no matter how good the science looks. Ultimately, the competition for talent in the biotech field is intense, especially in the Boston area, so they may struggle to attract and keep the right people on board. One last item, Beam is running clinical trials outside the United States, but this can be tricky as the FDA may not always accept data from these foreign trials. This means there are additional delays and costs. So after wading through this filing, what is the verdict on Beam Therapeutics? They have got some promising technology. The early data from their sickle cell trial is encouraging, and the partnerships with Pfizer and Lilly give them both cash and validation. But there are big challenges. It would take time for them to become profitable. If they stumble, it could all fall apart. Their risk factors are also serious, especially the ones around clinical trials, regulatory approvals, and competition, which could all make the company a tough one to invest into. All in all, Beam is a high-risk, high-reward story. It's not a stock for the faint of heart. You have got to believe in the science and be willing to stomach some potentially big swings. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and comment.